Courage. We all want it. What are the things in our lives that we need courage to tackle? How do you find the guts to get the glory? You make the list, you check it off. Sounds simple, but actually doing the hard stuff, the soul deep stuff, isn't always so. Find inspiration, ideas, and companions who also keep trying no matter what. Let's talk about what's on our lists, from giant dream to tiny wish. Let's share stories of triumph, struggle, joy, and yes, failure. And we'll keep going together on the Courage Checklist. What's on your list? We're so excited to have Stephanie Butler here with us today. Thanks for being here, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start by having you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do and where you are in the world.
All right. Well, I'll start. I'm in Barrie, Ontario, which is about an hour north of Toronto in Canada. And I am a life and wellness coach. And I'm also a community health worker. So I'm juggling two hats right now, career wise, which I'm loving. They're both very, very similar. And I'm also an author, a speaker, and a creative.
Ooh, can you tell me about your books first? I have to know about the books first.
Yes, absolutely. First, I was a contributing author to Dear Stress, I'm Breaking Up with You. And then the third in that series was Dear Time, Are You on My Side?
Is there one that you particularly liked better?
For me, it was the Dear Time. I was in a completely different place and it was the second go at writing. So I felt a little more confident. I got more vulnerable and really shared more about myself, my story. And I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
Well, that's an excellent segue because my next question was going to ask you about your story and things that you've been courageous about.
Okay. The main thing that I always equate to being courageous about is my recovery story. When I say recovery, I mean from addiction to drugs and alcohol. And so that started, the way I look at it, since I could pick up a drink, I knew I wanted to drink or drug. I knew I just didn't want to be in my own skin. I never felt comfortable. So, but I'd say it was my preteens, teenage years that I just took off in that whole world. And I felt like it was a great time. It was really working for me for a really long time because I was self medicating or I found what worked for me, whatever way you want to say that. And it helped me to kind of just feel okay in my own skin, to be myself, to be able to work, go to school. I like without drugs or alcohol in my system, I was a hot mess, and then I found what worked for me and it was fabulous until it wasn't so fabulous. And that was probably around 23, 24 years old. And I just got into the darkest place that I've ever been, depression and just absolute self-loathing that unless you've experienced it, you can't even imagine how much you can have this self-loathing and shame and guilt for all that you're doing in your life. And so it's just this vicious cycle because I knew to drink or drug and that would help me not feel the way I was feeling. Yet I hated drinking and drugging because it made me feel so horrible about myself. So it was just this cycle because I didn't know any other way how to live being me. And so that journey, the last 4 years of my addiction, it just kept getting darker and darker and lower and lower and scarier and scarier to the point where, I was hanging out with folks that you know, no respectable young lady should be hanging out with, finding myself in spots that you know, thank goodness I'm still alive today. And and so it brought me to this point that was the darkest day of my life. but turned out to be the best day of my life because I reached out for help. I found myself at a point where I could not imagine picking up drugs or alcohol anymore, but I couldn't imagine my life without them. And that was terrifying. But I somewhere deep inside I wanted to live. And so I reached out for help. And I'm in the helping field. And so that was a bitter pill to swallow, a bit humbling. My pride, my ego was kind of big and in my way, but all of that was knocked down. And it was like, I need help. And through that journey, I keep an open mind to like, I don't know what's going to work for me or what's going to help me because I proved my entire life I knew how to choose what would not help me. So it's real good at that. And so that for me started this journey of, nothing too big, just having to change absolutely everything I knew. Yeah, nothing big or courageous about that.
My goodness.
But it was amazing. And it continues on because my brain will always tell me a drink or a drug would be a good answer once in a while. It will try to trick me, right? So I have to choose every day that, I'm going to be in recovery today. And so I need to do certain things that I have found along this journey. It's been over 20 years of me choosing abstinence. I have to choose that every day because if I don't, my addiction is just there waiting to tell me, "Hey, just one drink. It's a wedding. You have to cheers the wedding party. Come on." Whatever lie it's going to tell me, it's going to continue to tell me that for the rest of my life. And I just am so blessed to know that. And, I have that opportunity every morning to make that to me, it's a courageous choice because now it's gotten a little bit easier. But in the beginning, it was like I was fighting against every instinct in my being of how to live life. I was just like, trying on different things. And so there was just, something new every day that I had to try on, try out, and kept with it to see what worked for me. And I continue to do that stuff. I think personal development it's a bold choice. It's a courageous choice to really look in that mirror and say, hey, you know what? Are you doing the best that you can today? Did you? Didn't you? What could you have done a little bit better? What what's not working for me so much anymore?
Was there a particular resource that was helpful for you? Were there books, people, organizations that made things
Yes,
easier?
absolutely. So here it was my family doctor who helped me get into treatment. And I work in the mental health field. And so there's quite a few different agencies, but CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association, is quite amazing. And then because of my doctor, I got involved in a few hospital programs. So mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapies, stuff like that. And so that started my journey. And I continue to just see what's out there. My biggest passion that I could talk about, and I won't start because you won't stop me, is on self compassion. So that's just rocked and changed my world. So it's always learning new things, and it's I kind of just keep looking for what's out there, what agency might be holding a workshop on, you know, mindfulness 2.0 just to refresh and keep myself centered.
Do you have tips for people on a self-compassion journey? I think it's interesting that you point that out because for me, I feel like it is something that I have to remember every once in a while. You get busy and it's easy to not be compassionate. And for me, I go back to old habits of, it's easy. You slide into something and you're like, oh, well, you couldn't do that. But really, I know that I can. Sounds like you have a wealth of information about that. What are some tips?
The best tip that I've ever learned, so it's Kristen Neff. She's like the guru of self compassion. And she talks about when you can hear that inner negative chatter, that dialogue that's telling you you're just not that great today, or You screwed up again. My tagline was, Stephanie, you're just such a dumbass. This is how I used to talk to myself. And what it is you hear that voice and then you ask yourself, if any of my good friends was going through what I'm going through, what would I say to them? Would I ever consider saying what I'm saying to myself? And the answer is absolutely not. And so I start then changing the inner dialogue to how I would talk to a good friend. And that's been the biggest, and it's going to feel weird at first and you're going to feel like a fraud and like, oh, this is all woohoo, what's going on? But when you can change that inner dialogue, at least catch it at first, because I never heard it before. It was just like on autopilot and I just believed everything I was telling myself. And and so that's been a big one. And then there's three components to self-compassion. And the big one for me is the self-kindness. And if you want to look up on YouTube a loving kindness meditation, oh, my favorite. And it's sending, compassion, love, just positive energy to yourself. And then you end up giving that to every sentient being on this planet, this universe. So it's just beautiful.
Oh, I like that idea. Because I have a brain injury, my inner voice that tells me, and it's funny, I've been through millions of kinds of therapy and I'm recovered, but it's just every once in a while. It sounds like yours. It was just automatic. So it's like, of course you can't do that. That's that's not possible for you. And it's insidious the way that works. So I'm similar in that I always try and keep finding resources to help with that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna make that part of my day.
I hope you enjoy it.
So what other kinds of things are you looking forward to accomplishing? Do you have any big goals coming up?
Well, for me this year, it's been connection has been my key word. And so that does get me out of my comfort zone. I'm a bit of a wallflower. I'm a bit of a, okay, unless it's something I'm really passionate about or, you know, uh, advocated for clients or anything like that, I'm fine. But so I want to connect with more people in person. So I've joined some networking program like groups. I'm connecting right here on a podcast, which is completely out of my comfort zone. I'm doing those types of things where I feel like I love social media. I enjoy it on all its levels, but I just feel since, past COVID now, I want to start seeing people face to face. So that's a big one for this year. And I am growing my coaching business. So it'll be 3 years the end of this year. So I'm pretty darn new. I mean, I've been in the field and a registered social service worker for years, but as a coach, it's a different thing. And being an entrepreneur, all new, right? To build that. So that's definitely new this year and for the future.
I like that. You were talking a little bit about the resources that you had used. What would you say that having a support system is really important for you?
Oh my goodness. It is like my number one thing when I'm working with clients on any level. I'm asking who is in your corner. So we start with family, we start with friends, and then let's look at the community. Are you religious? Are you spiritual? Are you connected to folks in those types of capacities? And then let's look at like the CMHAs or brain injury services or, Alzheimer's Society, all those different things, just to have the professional set of eyes on you every so often as well. I think it takes a village to raise from birth to death. We always forget the to death because, I've said this before. I've never been a 48-year-old woman on Thursday, February 9th, 2023. Might need some support to do that today.
Oh, that's wonderful advice. Oh, I really like, and a lot of people are timid or afraid to talk or think about getting a larger perspective. It's really easy to be in your own little, oh, well, my support system is my family. And
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting too as we get older and as we change in different roles in our lives. you need to have different support systems. So having the courage to seek those out is very important.
Absolutely. I used to think it was a sign of weakness to ask for help, and it's the complete opposite. It's takes guts to say I'm not sure what I'm doing right now or what's going on. I need some help. Been there, and it was the best thing I've ever done for myself.
That is wonderful. That makes me feel so good that you did that. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy for you.
Me too.
Tell me what kinds of stuff you do in your life that makes you happy or brings you joy.
Like I said, I'm creative, so
Uh-huh.
I love working with my hands and making things. So I kind of do jewelry, I do paper journals, junk journals. Right now, I'm working on a miniature book nook. So it looks like a little library. Yes, kind of thing. Yeah, I sat on a TikTok. I went down a little TikTok rabbit hole, and next thing you know, I was watching this woman making this book nook, and I'm like, well, I could do that. I'm going to.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear you say that because I have a machine called a Glowforge. It's a laser engraver and printer,
Oh wow.
and I have I have the pattern to cut out a book nook, but I
Oh
was
wow.
intimidated. There was a lot of pieces.
Can imagine. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
how fun!
Yeah. So I love Etsy, and I found these printables for book covers, like little books. So I've created some books. That's what I'm working on right now. And they're just fabulous and beautiful. And I knew I couldn't do that on my own. So ask for help on Etsy. If you can think about it, there's somebody on there selling it. So it was amazing.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I think that's a great metaphor for doing things like crafts. I mean, I have talked about this in a couple of the episodes, but it's funny because I'm sort of a jack of all trades, master of none with crafting. I like to do all of them, but I haven't really mastered any of them. But so I'm kind of afraid to start sometimes because sometimes it seems so daunting. But
Yes. I get it. COVID hit, home isolated, and a little bit of perfectionism going on in my world, working through it. I think it'll be a lifelong process, but I took up painting.
ooh, what
No,
kind?
terrifying, just acrylic paint,
Okay.
but it was a white canvas. And I'm like, what if I make a mistake? So it was this daunting thing where, I pictured something in my head. Could I put it on the canvas? And then somehow, I don't know if I must have heard it somewhere. And it was like, you could just paint over it if you don't like it. I was like, I could do that. Absolutely. So that got over my fear of the white canvas.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is I mean, I feel like that shouldn't be a revolutionary thought, but it is to me. I
It was for me. And I know
yeah,
I heard someone, but I don't know who was. Obviously an artist, a painter of some
right.
sort. But like I am not taking credit for that one. That's for sure.
Well, and as you say that, I mean, I love to watch Antiques Roadshow and all sorts of different kinds of there's a wonderful TikTok where they show the time lapse between cleaning different kinds of fine art and
Oh
paintings.
wow.
And it's
Wow.
great because you see that some of them and then a lot of them have x-rays of these incredible, interesting, fabulous artists and they've completely redone the painting like multiple times and
Wow.
so even people who are experts do that.
That-
I like that. So it sounds like because you're a maker, you're able to put a lot of different kinds of layers of compassion on your own life. I feel like being a maker is kind of cherishing your soul. I don't know. It sounds woo woo to say that, but but I think that's really really important. And it sounds like you found a way to support yourself in multiple areas of your life.
Absolutely. And in my coaching, the number one thing is I ask people, how do you express creatively? Oh, I'm not creative. I'm like,
Mhm.
I will beg to differ.
Wow.
Everybody is creative. I believe we were all put on this planet to express source, energy, whatever you want to call it. And so whether it's baking, cooking, gardening, painting, drawing, dancing, singing, whatever it is, everybody has a creative outlet that allows you to be in the moment where you're just you and whatever is flowing through you, whatever you're creating at that time. And like you said, it feeds your soul. It makes you happy. You're expressing your being who you're meant to be in that moment. And I encourage everybody I know to make the time to be creative on whatever level it is.
Well, because you're a book person, now I have to ask you too what your favorite books are.
I am a personal development junkie, so
Okay,
and a
that's great.
spiritual kind of person.
Uh-huh.
So I love Deepak Chopra.
Hmm.
I love Eckhart Tolle. And then I have one right on hand. Let me just show you this one. This one I just got for a friend. I've given this to everybody I know. It's about Taoism, but looking at Winnie the Pooh, one of my favorite childhood stories. So it's the Tao of Pooh and the Tea of Piglet. And it's just I love learning different philosophies, religions, spiritual outlooks. And so that's kind of what I read. I haven't read a lot of fiction in a long time. So if you have anyone that you would offer out, please, I'm listening.
I tell this to everyone. My favorite fictional author, and I read lots of everything. I just read really quickly, so I have to feed my brain. I always recommend Louise Penny. She's a Canadian author.
Okay.
Fantastic, amazing mysteries, but they're multi-layered and they have incredible character development as well as social commentary, which is
Okay.
very, very important. They just put out a mini series based on her books on, I think it's on Amazon Prime, not sure, but the books are amazing. They're the
Oh,
kinds of
boy.
things you can get lost in.
Thank you. Yeah, I need something like that because I always gravitate to the self-help and the self-love and and I'm like, I just need to use that imagination again, and get lost in a book.
Well,
Thank
all
you.
kinds of books are good. I tell my kids that because I had to tell me once that graphic novels weren't reading. And I thought, it's not fair.
Not at all. That
Counts.
yes, it does.
It's
Yeah.
fun. Well, I have two last questions that I always want to know, and I think I know from speaking with you, but I like to know what kind of a learner you are. Are you a visual learner? Are you a spatial, creative? What kind of learner do you think you are yourself?
I am a visual learner and a hands-on learner. So, and I'm better in person than online. But I can learn either way, but that's where I thrive. And if you show me something and then you let me get my hands dirty and try it next, then I've picked it up like that. Yeah.
I have to work so hard at it's my husband's like that. I keep trying.
I'm like, how do you do that? Right? Like
Yeah.
we're all so different.
Oh, for sure. Everybody's got their thing. And for my last question, I think it's really interesting because I like to turn the question on you and make about it a little bit. I want you to think about what kind of qualities that you value in yourself that having had your life experiences and going through the journey you have, what kinds of things are the most important within yourself?
Hmm, sure. That is a good question. I think for me, it's being non judgmental and open minded and living with integrity. So, kind of walking the walk and talking the talk. And I get very serious. But I have a splendid sense of humor when it comes out. So, I really value humor in others. Like, if you can make me laugh, you got me. I'm yours. You know what I mean? So, I love that in people. And I love my own wit and humor. It's sometimes really dry. And if you don't know me, I'm like, ooh, just here's another one. But
I like that.
I I'll let folks know. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Well, I just always think it's interesting because, I mean, you know yourself the best, and I think that one of the reasons why I do this show is I want people to recognize their own incredible qualities that they have. And maybe by hearing you, someone will recognize that in themselves.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope they do. I wonder if you're available for coaching clients. How can people contact you? Best way is my website. So it's stephaniebutlercoach.com. Or you can check me out on Instagram. It's stephanie.butler.coach.
Okay. I'm writing it all down.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. This has been lovely. Oh, thank you. This has been great. Very comforting and insightful for me. So thank you.
One of the things that resonated with me about my talk with Stephanie was all about how persistent and tenacious she was. That's something that obviously I've talked about on the show before as being very important to me. But also, it's interesting because I was able to kind of pick that up in the 3 books that I wanted to share with you this week. Now, the first book is called Just One Thing: Developing a Buddha Brain One Simple Practice at a Time by Rick Hanson, PhD. There are a whole bunch of different small, short articles that are just one habit, one thing at a time. And habit number 31 is the habit of persistence, and he titles it Keep Going. It's very, very interesting to me because he breaks it down. And it's really easy to say, just keep going, just be persistent. But how do you actually do that? Now, this author says, he talks about making sure your goals are worthy of your perseverance. Don't keep going down something that's not worth it. And this author, Rick Hanson, has a funny way to put it. He says, don't keep going down a tunnel with no cheese. So think about the implications if you keep going or not. And also, he says, understand the feeling of being persistent. How do you feel when you do that? Are you fierce, strong? Are you clear? Does it inspire you? Are you focused? So when you're trying to be persistent, remember a time that you have been that, and then call up that feeling to draw those resources and help you keep going. One of the most important steps, I think, though, is taking the step that's right in front of you, one after another. Just like any kind of task, you just have to do the one next thing. If you're climbing a mountain, you just have to take the next step. Depending upon the task, of course, it's always different, but you just have to do the one next thing. The other thing that's important is thinking about the pace that you can sustain. So if you're being persistent in one of your goals, it's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. So you have to keep going as you can handle it. So take spaces between your pushes. He says, keep going in your mind too, even if you aren't making any headway in your world. So even if you're really truly stuck in a situation that you're trying to be persistent through, the least you can do is reflect on what's happening within yourself. You can only control you, right? I tell my kids that all the time. I tell myself that all the time. I can control my reactions and my actions. And that makes all the difference. The last thing he says on being persistent is really important, and that's having faith that your efforts are going to pay off. You have to believe in yourself. So I thought that was a really great book. I've gotten a lot out of it. Again, it's called Just One Thing by Rick Hanson, PhD. One of the biggest things that Stephanie said that resonated with me also was about choice. And choice is so important to me. It's such an interesting way to frame what you do. You have so much more ownership when you choose things. And it reminded me of another book that I've been looking at this week, which is called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey. One of the things that Tricia says in her book is, your body is yours and knows the way. We must make space for rest in small and large ways. We want it to become a daily practice that is reimagined by you. Revolution is not a one-time event, she says. So she invites us to intentionally participate in rest and choose that for yourself. Choose that as part of what you do in your daily life. I am very, very inspired by that, and I'm going to try and do that a lot more intentionally in my day. So I invite you guys to pick up either one of those books. They're pretty fascinating. And I loved the interaction that I had with Stephanie, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again next week. Thanks for listening. One last thing this week. I am always looking for your stories of courage. So please, if you're interested, leave a voicemail at the website for the podcast or email me at couragechecklist@gmail.com.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight